help me welcome Kit Welchlin to the stage.
Thank you, Angie. Thank you for that flattering introduction. My goodness, after an introduction like that, I can't wait to hear what I have to say. I'd like a copy of that so the next time somebody says, hey, who do you think you are? Something I can tell them. And thank you for sharing that just the way I wrote it. Always appreciate that. Great to be here with you. A couple of things I'd like to clarify as we get started. According to the Book of Lists, public speaking is often ranked as one of the #1 most stressful events we find ourselves in. And I've been managing the stress of public speaking now for 46 years. I began public speaking at the age of 9. That was not out of desire. It was out of necessity. You see, when I grew up on that hog and dairy farm in southern Minnesota, I was the youngest of 4 sons, no sisters. And I grew up in a position-centered family, not a person-centered family where everyone had to have an equal say or an equal vote. There was a true hierarchy in the family where my dad had the most authority, then my mom, and then it went from oldest to youngest, and I was the youngest. So what would happen around the dining room table is my dad would say something, then my mom would say something, then Cabot, Kelly, Corey, and then they changed the subject. I always had a terrible time getting into the conversation, but in 4-H, I could get up in front of a club once a month and give a 5 or 10-minute speech without interruption, and I really haven't stopped since. Then I went to school at Mankato State, became a college dropout when that little manufacturing company came up for sale in my hometown. And the reason the business was for sale is because the gentleman that had started the company in 1972 had already suffered a massive heart attack by 1983, so it looked like something I should get involved with. And it was a stressful business. This presentation, stress management, is the presentation I deliver the most often, more than 600 times over the last 25 years. And often it's called stress, time, and procrastination management. And that's how I'm going to cover it with you this afternoon, too. We're going to talk about what is stress, 15 physical remedies, 15 psychological strategies to manage stress. About 40% of the stress we feel is caused by poor time management. So I'm going to provide some time management ideas also, and then I put procrastination off to the very end, and hopefully we'll get a chance to talk about that. But if not, I can come back next year. We can discuss that. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's take a look at stress management. There's 3 questions we need to ask and 3 questions we need to answer. Now you're going to have a handout, Hannah, and if you would hand out the handouts now, that'd be fantastic. Now the reason I provide the handout is because even if you were awfully interested in what I had to say or how I presented the information, listening retention is only about 25%, which means we should really cover this presentation 4 times. So we wouldn't finish up until 8:30 tonight. It's usually pretty funny, but not at 4:30, okay. But I want that handout to be what you go to when you're wondering what to do to put some balance back into your life and to manage stress. So we're going to have some answers to these 3 questions. How well am I avoiding unnecessary stress? How well am I responding to unavoidable stress, the stress that comes with our personal and professional roles in our lives? And then we're also going to talk about how do we practice good health. So when it comes to stress management, there's another question we need to take a look at, and that, what is stress? That's a pretty good question. What I found over the years is simply stress is wear and tear caused by life. According to the research by Dr. Leonard Hayflick, the human body has a biological potential to live to about 135 years. But we don't find very many people living into the 110s, 120s, or 130s, and one of the main reasons is because of stress. This wear and tear, this erosion or corrosion caused by life. So we start out with a biological potential of about 135 years. My oldest brother, Cabot, had the whooping cough. My parents claim they nearly lost him. So he starts out with a biological potential of 135 years. He gets the whooping cough. He's down to 130 years. Maybe when we were going through adolescence, self-esteem was low, stress was high. Now we're down from 130 years down to 125. Or maybe we got involved in some racy relationships in our late teens and early 20s. Now we're down from 125 down to 120. Or maybe we bought a small manufacturing company when we were 21. Now we're down to 57 or so. But it's those choices we make in life that create a lot of the wear and tear caused by life. And it attacks us on 2 fronts. It's a physical state, we get tired. It's also a psychological state because we worry. Now the problem with worrying is the mind has a hard time telling the difference between what is real or what is well imagined. So when we worry about whether or not we put enough money aside to retire comfortably, even though we're not retiring right now, kicks us into a stress response. when we worry about if we put enough money aside to get the kids through college, even though they're still in grade school. It puts us in a stress response. The mind has a hard time telling the difference between what is real or what is well imagined. Now, the good news is, according to the Nightingale Foundation, 40% of the stress we worry about never happens. 30% of what we worry about already has happened. Wish it wasn't that way. It is that way. All we can do is take a big old dose of acceptance. About 12% of what we worry about are needless health care concerns, whether you're going to get the flu or heart disease or cancer. All you can be is well-fed, well-rested, well-exercised. The rest is faith. About 10% of what we worry about is considered petty. That's the day we don't like how our hair looks. Isn't that funny? That's the day we get the most compliments about our hair. Oh, I really like your hair like that. Really, I thought about shaving it all off before I came to work. No, I love it. So that leaves a whopping 8%. 8% of what we worry about, we should be worried about. The problem is trying to figure out which 8% that is. Now, Mark Twain used to put it this way. Imagine 10 troubles rolling down the road at you like tires. Can you imagine that? 10 troubles rolling down the road at you like tires. Probably 9 will roll in the ditch before they ever get to you. We tend to worry about a lot of things that simply never happen. But it puts us into a stress response. And there's 3 stages of stress. The first stage is called the alarm stage. And what did you wake up to this morning? An alarm clock. Maybe our phone was ringing or music was playing, but we become alarmed. Adrenaline pumped into the system, blood sugars are released, our heart starts to pound, we start to pant, and then we go right into the fight or flight mechanism. We either fight, go to the shower, take a shower, head to work, flee, hit the snooze button for another 10 minutes, and no matter how well or how poorly our day goes, we're exhausted at the end of the day. Now that's a quick trip through the stress response. But this is something we inherited from our ancestors 50, 60,000 years ago. Let's say I was your ancestor 50,000 years ago. I'm Harry Cave Dweller. And I'm outside my cave on this beautiful day with my beautiful wife, Harriet. And we're enjoying the beautiful day, and all of a sudden a mountain lion jumps in front of the cave. Well, I become alarmed. Adrenaline's pumped into the system, blood sugars are released, my heart starts to pound, I start to pant, I have constriction of blood flow to my extremities, so if I'm bitten in battle or lacerate my feet running through the jungle, I won't bleed to death. But I also change psychologically. I don't look at that mountain lion and think, wow, what a beautiful coat of hair. I look for areas of weaknesses, points of vulnerability, where I can attack, and whether I break its paw, break its jaw, run through the jungle until I was safe. According to the research by Dr. Ken Dykewald, our ancestors would literally lay down and sleep 20 to 40 hours before they'd be back to homeostasis, the condition they're in physically and psychologically, before the mountain lion jumped in front of the cave. Now, that same old survival mechanism is kicking in today, and it is. What's the problem with that equation? We're not getting the what? 20 to 40 hours of sleep every day. That's usually pretty funny too. So we're going to have to figure out better ways to manage the stress. Otherwise, we're going to become burned out. Now, I'll tell you what, burnout isn't pretty. If you truly do become burned out, according to the research by Dr. K.W. Center, burnout isn't something you recover from some 3-day weekends through the summer or the holidays. If you truly do become burned out, it can take 2 to 4 years to recover from burnout. And I've never had anybody ever come up to me and say, Kit, the years I was burned out, those are the best years of my life. No, they're the longest days of your life. So I don't want you to become burned out, but we should be able to see this coming too. First stage of burnout, physical fatigue. You're exhausted. You have a favorite TV program you like to watch. You sit down in front of the TV, and about 3 or 4 minutes, there's a commercial break. Next thing you realize, you wake up, it's 1:30 in the morning. There's an infomercial on selling exercise equipment, and you wipe the drool off your chin, find the remote control, shut off the TV, head down the hallway, get a few more hours of sleep. You're exhausted. Second stage of burnout is psychological fatigue. Some of us get grumpy. Some people get grouchy. Some people go looking for a fight. Some people withdraw from relationships. My wife says that when I hit psychological fatigue, I get touchy. Can you imagine that, me getting touchy? I don't get touchy. I go into denial. I say, I'm not touchy, you're touchy. But my wife thinks I'm being touchy. But almost every one of us will suffer from something called mindlessness or thoughtlessness. And this is how it affects us. We're on our way home from work and we think, well, that's right. I need to pick up a gallon of milk. Next thing you realize, you pull up to the garage, you look down, you go, doggone, I didn't pick up any milk. So you back out of the driveway, head down to the grocery store. Then the next thing you find yourself doing is walking up and down the aisles of the grocery store trying to figure out, why am I in a grocery store? So grab some paper towels, they never go bad. Grab some toilet paper, you can always use that. You get in the checkout line, you look at somebody else's cart, they have milk. So you go back to the far corner of the store and get your milk and walk out with $20 dollars of other grocery items, and the next thing you realize you're swinging back into the parking lot at work, and you're on your way home. Ever walk into a room and you can't remember why you walked into that room? Second stage of burnout. According to OSHA, 16 days a year of work lost at this point. Physical fatigue, people get sick. Psychological fatigue, people get hurt. Stumbling over things, having accidents, running into each other. So I don't want you to become burned out. Last stage of burnout is spiritual fatigue. And spiritual fatigue is a sense of hopelessness, helplessness, thoughts of escape, not winking at yourself in the mirror anymore. You don't want to deal with your coworkers or customers anymore. I mean, you're sick of it. I think the best way to tell you if it's spiritual fatigue, I think it's CBS. Has a TV show, and the whole TV show is a bunch of stories about people that have run away to another part of the country for 5 or 10 years, and none of their family and friends can find them. And as you're watching that TV show, you're wondering if you could do that, if you could just run away for 5 or 10. Just take cash. Take all the cash you can find. Credit cards and checks are too easy to trace. Just take all the cash. Seems crazy we'd call that burnout. I mean, who doesn't get tired every once in a while? I agree. Who doesn't get a little grumpy or grouchy every once in a while? I agree. Who doesn't lose hope every once in a while? I'll agree. But if you truly do become burned out, you might miss out on the best 2 to 4 years of your life, or your kid's life, or your parents' life. So I don't want you to become burned out. So let's take a look at some strategies to deal with that burnout. On the back side of that page, we have 15 physical remedies, so let's take a look at that first one there. Get organized. What did our parents used to say? Place for everything and everything in its place. Awfully good advice. According to Chris Publications, they estimate we spend 45 minutes a day, personally, professionally combined, just looking for things. That's 6 work weeks a year, just looking for things. So I don't know if it's going to take 2 minutes, 2 hours, 2 days, 2 weeks, but get organized. Next on that list is a proper diet. You want to make sure you work into your diet some of those what do they call them? Yeah, vegetables. That's right. I was thinking an F word. Fruits. Yeah, fruits and vegetables. You want to make sure your plate looks colorful. And then you also want to exercise. So I want to give you the 5 criteria. I want to give you the 5 criteria to an exercise program that will work if you put it to work. 5 criteria to an exercise program that will work. Number 1, it has to be something that causes you to move. That's real important in an exercise program. Otherwise, it just doesn't have the effect. It has to be something that causes you to breathe deeply so you get the aerobic benefit. It has to be something that causes you to bend, to put elasticity back into the muscles and ligaments. It has to be something you enjoy, and it has to be at your pace. And that's an exercise program that will last a lifetime. I'm not going to ask you to get up every morning and run 3 miles. I have a brother that does. I'll run if I'm real scared. But I don't run for exercise. What I do is I hook up the family's full-size 5-passenger collie and I take it around the lake. Causes me to move, breathe. It's about 3 miles, about 45 minutes. Bend. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. It's like having a Holstein heifer as a pet. That's the only part I don't enjoy, but it is at my pace. I'll walk that dog as long as it lives. I'm estimating another 3 years, 8 months, somewhere around there. Kids wanted a dog, and I ended up with an exercise program. But you got to find an exercise program that fits your schedule. Next on that list, of course, is take a massage class, $5, $10, $15 through Community Ed. Take a partner with you, twice as much fun. And also do some relaxation exercises from the tip of your toes to the top of your head. See if you can adjust your feet to take some tension off your ankles or your knees or your lower back. See if you can let your shoulders drop. Sometimes they'll drop an inch or 2 if you just let them. Let your jaw hang open, let your face sag. Fighting gravity all day long. You can also do some deep breathing. Now, some people say this is deep breathing. What is that? A sighing. That's right. Deep breathing, according to Dr. Bert Decker, is you inhale 5 seconds, hold it 15 seconds, exhale slowly for 10. Inhale 5, hold 15, exhale slowly for 10. So let's live it up. Let's give it a try. Here we go. Okay. There. Oh, missed it. Hang on. 3, 2, 1. Inhale 5. Hold that for 15. Exhale slowly for 10. And do that 4 times. Maybe sitting down because they get a little lightheaded doing that standing up. But inhale 5, hold 15, exhale slowly for 10. Now it gives the heart an opportunity to pump the blood through the system twice. Oxygenated blood is fuel for the brain. You've just gone from unleaded gas to jet fuel. You're quicker thinking, more articulate, more vocabulary available to you, quicker wit, just because of deep breathing. It also expands your lung capacity to nearly 80%. It gives you the short-term benefit of being a long-distance runner, and you don't have to do all that running. It lowers the pitch of your voice, softens the tone of your voice. You sound warm and cooperative even if you're not. So if you're going to go into a meeting where you know there's going to be some conflict, inhale 5, hold 15, exhale slowly for 10, open the door and go into the meeting. Make sure you do it before the meeting, not during the meeting. If you're sitting in the meeting going, people might misunderstand your intentions. Next on that list is to do some stretching, but be gentle with stretching. My initial stress response is a knot in my neck on the left side. I don't know if that's my stress response or because a brother threw a hay bale on my head 45 years ago, but that's it. Knot in my neck, headache in my left temple. My wife usually gets a stomach ache, so we really have to catch on to what our symptom is. So if I start stretching, I have to be very gentle with it. If I start rotating my head, it's going to get stuck right here. Now I'm going to have a stressful day. So instead, you just go to the side for about 5 seconds. Slowly bring your head up so the muscles don't spasm. Go to the other side, do that half a dozen times. You can put your chin to your chest, put your head back at an angle, sometimes straight back. It'll cut off the blood supply to your brain, you'll pass out. So be gentle with that one. Pull your elbows across your chest, do that half a dozen times. If it is your lower back that gets tight, you can stretch your back and then slowly bring your upper body back up to your best posture. And then you might want to take a walk. Say, Charlie, can we go ahead and get this fired up and see what we can learn from this video?
Hi, this is Kit Welchlin, and welcome to SeminarsOnStress.com. Today's video blog is on stress management. The question is, should I take a hike? Kit, I sit at my desk responding to endless emails. I sit in important meetings, Of course, making critical decisions all the time. I have a stressful job. At my last meeting, one of my coworkers said to me, "Take a hike." Should I take a hike? Well, I'm not exactly sure what your coworker meant with their comment that you should take a hike, but I do know this. If you have a stressful job and you don't get much of a chance to be active throughout the day, it might be a good idea to take a walk, not necessarily a hike. And a walking break helps relieve stress. Instead of a coffee break, go on a walking break. Instead of sitting around, eating junk food, smoking cigarettes, and talking smart, go for a walk. Take a couple of laps around the building or down the hallway to relieve the stress and anxiety of your fast-paced career. Maybe over lunch you can invite along someone you need to talk with about a stressful topic or conflict situation. Walking together will relieve the stress, burn up the adrenaline and blood sugars caused by the stress response, and give you time to respond rather than react. It works at home too. Take walking breaks with your family. Don't stink up the dining room table with conflict. Go for a walk and talk about family struggles. Wave at your neighbors, pet their dog, dodge some cars. This will give you time to reflect and respond kindly. Protect the dining room table for positive family exchanges rather than conflict situations. Hey, the walking break sounds good to me. I always feel better when I get outside and get some fresh air. There are a couple of things we need to discuss. Hey, why don't you take a hike with me and we can talk?
Wow. Not too long ago, I was speaking at a CEO conference, and a woman came up to me after the event and said, the other guy in the videos with you, he's kind of distracting. I said, that's me, don't you? No, it's not. I have to work with him every day. So you might want to go on a walking break, but you also want to maybe use music to your advantage rather than your disadvantage. What kind of music, when you listen to it, irritates you? It's just like someone took a screwdriver, put it in your ear, gave it a twist. What kind of music irritates you? Jazz music? Oh, I would think so, yeah. Is that pounding rap music? Yeah, that can get to you after. Sometimes I'm out west, I'll hit some real country western, and that goes a long way in a short period of time. And then every once in a while, I'm on Seeker Scan, I'll catch about 3 seconds of opera. Whoo-wee, it's just like an ice pick right back here. But so we know music can put us in a bad mood. So the rule is to listen to certain music on your way to work to put you in a certain mood, and different music you listen to on your way home from work. Now, I like what I do, but I've delivered more than 3,000 of these over the last 25 years. And sometimes, if I don't feel like it, when I'm 20 minutes or 20 miles away, I have a playlist that I listen to, and it's got some Van Halen and Cheap Trick and Styx, and I'm singing along with that. And by the time I park in the parking lot and get out of the car, I'm like, give me a microphone, give me an audience. But that's not the way my wife wants me to come home at the end of the day. So I have a different playlist I listen to, and it has Neil Diamond on it because Neil croaks along in my range, so I croak along with Neil. And then there's a couple of Roy Orbison songs on there, so I'm trying to hit the high notes with Roy, and a couple of Larry Graham songs. I love Larry Graham. And then, well, there's even a Barry Manilow song on there. But anyway, but I realize I'm a better husband when I get home, I'm a better father, better listener. So you got to make sure that you use music to your advantage rather than your disadvantage. And you might even want to sing. So let's go ahead, Charlie, see if there's anything we can learn on this video on singing. See if this will help us relieve some stress.
Hi, this is Kit Welchlin, and welcome to SeminarsOnStress.com. Today's video blog is on stress management, and the question is, are we happy because we sing? La 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 la, la 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 la. When I was a boy, world was better spot. What was so was so, what was not was not. Now I am a man, world have changed a lot. Some things nearly so, others nearly not. Hey Kit, I was wondering, do I sing because I'm happy, or am I happy because I sing? Does singing really relieve stress? Yes, singing relieves stress. And we are happy because we sing. You should sing if you have a good voice or if you drive alone. When you sing, musical vibrations alter your physical and emotional state. The benefits of singing are both physical and psychological. Singing boosts oxygen levels in the blood, causes better circulation, and enhances the immune system. Singing releases feel-good brain chemicals called endorphins, associated with feelings of pleasure. Singing releases oxytocin, a hormone found to alleviate anxiety and stress. Also, singing lessens feelings of loneliness and depression. Singing can boost the mood and promote relaxation. Study after study has found that singing relieves anxiety. Singing is a great way to relieve tension and stress. Maybe you should try singing. Singing while commuting, singing while walking, or singing some karaoke. I love singing, and people love it when I sing. I like your karaoke idea. On my way home, it will be Karaoke with Kit. I need to prepare my playlist of show tunes, The King and I, The Music Man, and South Pacific. This will be great. I feel better already.
Whew. How'd you like to work with that guy every day, huh? Now, the number one strategy of Fortune 500 companies is to have a hobby. The key to that hobby is to make sure it's significantly different than what you do on the job. So if things aren't going well professionally, you can fall back on a different identity, still like yourself personally, even if things are a little bit bumpy professionally. Personal request, make sure it's a hobby that's safe. Make sure it's a hobby that can't kill you. Now, my wife and I always bought old houses and fixed them up. And it was home number 15 that about put an end to that hobby. Big old Victorian home just up the hill here, east of downtown St. Paul, on a little street called Eichenwald Street. We bought that house for $30,000. We negotiated $1 a head for the squirrels in the attic. Took us about a year and a half to restore that house. And I happened to be home that day. My office was in the home at that time. And my office was in the back of the house in the ballroom. And when we sold the house, the appraiser came over to take a look at the house. And I happened to be home, and we're out in the yard. And he says, "This is a beautiful home." I said, "Thank you." And it's a big house. Yeah, big heat bills. And we're standing there looking at the house, and then he turns to me and he says, "Kip, but something concerns me." And I said, "What's that?" And he says, "That third floor attic trim doesn't seem to be the same shade of paint as the rest of the trim." So I just stood there looking at it. And then he turns to me and he says, "Kit, did you scrape and repaint that third floor attic trim?" And I said, "No, that was in such good condition, I didn't think that'd be necessary." Oh, he turns to me and he scowls and he says, "Kit, you know, a house built around the turn of the century, that's probably lead-based paint." So I turned to him and scowled, and I said, "Do you think some kid's gonna climb up there 30 feet and suck that paint off the trim?" But I didn't get very far with that argument. So he said I was going to have to scrape and repaint that trim by closing. So I got two bids. The lowest bid was $2,500. I thought, for $2,500, I'll do it myself. So I ran out to Haney Rental on White Bear Avenue, rented some scaffolding, set that up on the south side of the house, scraped one day, east side of the house, scraped and repainted it one day, north side of the house, scraped and repainted one day. Then I got to the front of the house faced the west, so if you're along the sidewalk, you turn, go up 8 or 10 concrete steps, and there's like a 6-foot square concrete pad that's a sidewalk, and then up a couple of steps to the front door. But when I set the scaffolding up, it leaned away from the house, so I shimmed the scaffolding so it was straight, but then when I went across the catwalk, it was wiggly, and I thought, doggone it, I could fall. So I took the scaffolding back, and I said, that scaffolding's not going to work in the front of my house. I need a really long ladder. None of my laterals will reach. He said, well, how high in the air are you? And I said, well, I don't know. The first floor is about 3 feet off the ground, then it's 11-foot ceilings on the first floor, 1-foot floor, just say 14, 15, and then 10-foot ceilings on the second floor, 25 feet, I suppose. Well, you probably need a 40-foot extension ladder. I said, okay, great. So, you ever carried around a 40-foot extension ladder? Anyway, I got that home, set it up, worked my way from the right side of the house to the center of the house. House had a dormer that stuck out with windows, and I thought, I'll finish that last. So I went to the left side of the house, worked my way back, and for some reason on the right side of the ladder, I could just stretch, scrape, and repaint the trim. But for some reason on the left side of the ladder, and I don't know if it's how I had my feet on the rungs or what, there's about 1.5 foot of trim I couldn't reach. So I looked down to the sidewalk, look at that piece of trim. Sure enough, you'd be able to see I hadn't finished scraping and repainting it. So I put the paint can in my left hand, brush and scrapers in my right hand, and went to push off the ladder to get onto the roof. Yeah, not thinking. There's an aluminum ladder against the steel rain gutter. When I went to push off the ladder, I pushed the ladder off the house. I fell straight off the front of the house and went smack dab in the concrete in front of the house. I couldn't have been out walking in the yard and went, hey, look, concrete, and laid down a bit more in the center of that concrete. Now, when people tell you when you fall 20, 25 feet or so, it's like slow motion, not in St. Paul. Gravity's pretty good. Sucked me down to the ground so fast I couldn't believe it. All I thought when I was falling was, don't hit your head. Last thing they hit, landed on my back, my arms behind me, I hit my head, and I said, doggone, I hit my head. And I reached up behind my left ear, and it was soaking wet, and it felt really funny, and I thought, doggone, I crushed my skull. It took me 35 years to get all that information. I'm going to share right now. And I brought my hand around. It wasn't blood, it was paint. When I started to fall, I threw my hands back so quickly to try to catch my balance. I coated myself with white oil primer. You can drive up the hill with 402 Eichenwald, go up on the sidewalk, looks like a chalk drawing of a dead body with the paint dripped off my body. And I said, oh, my arm hurts. And I brought my, I said, oh, God, I broke my arm. I said, oh, this arm hurts. And I brought, oh, God, I broke that arm too. And then I looked down, I couldn't move my feet, and I thought, oh, God, I broke my back. And then I'm laying on the concrete thinking, wow, what a beautiful day. Look at that, 2 little puffy white clouds, otherwise clear skies. And my neighbor was outside. He didn't even want to come over. He thought for sure I was dead. And he, okay, you're still moving. I'll call an ambulance. I said, that'd be great. So they scooped me up, took me out to St. John's Hospital, and they were just getting ready to put me into surgery when my wife arrived. She said, what happened? And the doctor said, your husband's had a terrible fall, and he has a terrible concussion behind his left ear. He may not be the same. And I'm laying in the gurney, I'll be the same. And my wife says, I am different now. She says, I'm much more serious than I used to be. Oh no, I used to be a weirdo. Anyway, they took me into surgery for just a little bit less than 10 hours. When I fell on my back, I did a belly flop on my pelvis. I had a bruise on my pelvis about the size of a football, about the same color. Didn't crack, didn't break, perfectly flat. When my hands hit, I shattered both my wrists. 19 fractures in this wrist, 16 fractures in this wrist. When my elbows hit, scuffs on my elbows were identical, dislocated both my shoulders that absorbed enough of the shock that I didn't crush my skull. My doctor said I fell perfectly. And he always said how lucky I was. Lucky? You ever had both arms in cast, past your elbows, past your fingertips? There's nothing you could do. Nothing. I was so glad I've been so nice to my wife all those years, because every favor was paid back in 12 weeks. She had bathed me, shaved me, everything me. But I'm amazed how relationships change over time. I fell the day before Halloween. I'm still in cast by the time we get to Thanksgiving, and my wife is gently feeding me. She'd have a glass of milk with a straw. Is that enough milk? Mm-hmm. Would you like white meat or dark meat? Dark meat. Mashed potatoes, gravy, and she's gently feeding me. I'm still in cast by the time we get to Christmas. This is the way my wife is feeding me. Hurry up, Anita, can't do this all day. We have company coming. I was afraid I wasn't going to survive the feedings. So if you're going to have a hobby, make sure it's one that's safe, one that can't kill you. And smile and laugh. It releases endorphins. It's like a mild shot of morphine. And hey, who couldn't take one of those every once in a while? I'm kidding. No, really, I'm kidding. But anyway, and then you should have a date night. Something every week or every month that you look forward to. Friday night's always date night. My wife and I go for a boat ride, go for a motorcycle ride, go out to dinner, do something, just the two of us. Sometimes it's not much time over the years, but I've only missed 7 of those. It's a priority. And the 7 that I missed, I was getting paid a handsome speaking fee, and my wife said, if they'll pay you that much, go. And then I split the money with her, and then I paid taxes on all of it, and I made nothing out of the thing about it. That must be why I quit doing that. But you got to have something that you look forward to on a regular basis, just something little that keeps you remembering why life is so much fun. Okay, then you might not be able to do all those physical remedies, so I want to provide some psychological strategies that will help. One of those is think of yourself as being self-employed. On your way out the door, just put out your hands like a scale. What are my talents, abilities, and skills? What are they willing to pay me for those today? Seems fair. And then you go. More talents, abilities, and skills you develop, the more valuable you are to this organization or the next one. So always see yourself as an independent contractor. Next on that list, continue your education. We know the more you learn, the more you earn. I couldn't care less about that. I'm just amazed the difference a good book makes in our decision making. So what are you reading? What are you studying? Because what we read will have a different impact on our decision making. And then set long-term goals. When I started speaking for a living back in 1991, we used to ask people to plan their life in decades. What are you up to for the next 10 years? Now it's hard for me to get my clients to think past the next 12 months. But what are you up to for the next 10 years? Kind of have that long-term life script so you can get prepared and meet those ambitions. And then past accomplishments reference. I deliver a little presentation on self-esteem, and people can't leave that presentation until they fill out a past accomplishments reference. And it's filling out a list of 25 past success stories from when you're a little bitty snot-nosed kid till now. Any award, certificate, plaque, trophy, ribbon, acts of kindness, but anything you've done that you should have been pat on the back, job well done. And the next time you face a challenge or an obstacle, you pull out that list of 25 success stories where you were the hero or heroine in every one of them. And you'll see you've accomplished great things, and it's just an opportunity to get something else on the list. Now, I've had people come up to me years later and say, "Kid, I'm up to 175. And I said, "Well, good for you. I'm up to 205. That's a weight joke. I don't know. They're not funny anymore, are they? I said, "What are you talking about?" And they said those past accomplishments references. I kept thinking of things, and things would happen. They had 7 pages of past accomplishments. And they weren't arrogant. They were very comfortable, just had a little bit of an air of confidence. I mean, it's just a lot of fun to be with them. And really, when it comes to self-esteem, this is the bottom line. You spend 24 hours a day with yourself. You could just as well enjoy it. I mean, it's a riot in here, isn't it? I don't know if you spend your day like I do, but I spend most of my time biting my tongue, don't you? You're the only person you spend your entire life with. Have fun with it, please. And then positive visualization. Instead of imagining things are going to go bad, imagine things are going to turn out just fine. Some researchers claim that human beings are successful 95% of the time, that 19 out of 20 times what you attempt, you do attain. Now that 1 in 20 times when we fail, yeah, that really stinks, but most of the time things go our way, so imagine it will. And then positive affirmations. Say to yourself, "I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me." You keep saying things like that, you'll be a U.S. Senator someday. And go on a mental vacation every once in a while. Just close your eyes and go to the beach, go to the river. And you don't have to deal with TSA either. But I play my best golf in my mind. I'm hitting them right down the fairway. I'm hitting, my shots at the green are staying on the green. I'm putting like a madman. So just go on a mental vacation. Remember, the mind cannot tell the difference between what is real or what is well imagined. So just idle down with that type of visualization. And then understand your emotions and respond appropriately. And I'd like you to do that by altering your interpretations. Get in the habit of saying at least. So this is how this works. Let's say when you leave here, if you're going to be driving home tonight, and you go out to one of the streets and there's a stoplight and your light turns green, you get ready to go into the intersection, someone blows through their red light, you jam on your brakes and you say, "Woo, at least they didn't hit me." Maybe things aren't going well and you're at work right now, but at least I still have a job. Yeah. Okay. Maybe things aren't going well in my marriage right now, but at least I have a wine cabinet. Okay, great. Okay, not quite what I was thinking. Yeah. I have plenty of booze and cigarettes. Okay, well, it helps sometimes. And understand your emotions. All information simply comes through your senses. No meaning's been applied to it. It's our interpretations that have an impact on our feelings. And once we feel that way, it limits our options and what we would say or what we would do when we feel like that. So you're thinking at 800 to 1,200 words per minute. Only takes a few minutes to collect your thoughts. So double check your interpretations and then your feelings. What are my options? And then express your best option. And sometimes your best option is not to take it personally, because you don't get paid to take it personally. You want to get paid and take it personally. I have some manufacturing clients that are still throwing wrenches across the shop at each other. But you gave that up. You get paid to respond professionally. I've been in this business for 26 years. I've grown a really thick skin. People think I'm kind of portly and kind of chubby. No, it's a thick skin. That's what this is, thick skin. So sometimes we need to have a thick skin. It helps us manage the stress of professional lives. And then, is this controllable? That's a pretty good question. Let's say you get to work next week and there's some things bugging you. Not even bugging, but bugging me. What's bugging me? So you write down everything you can think of. That person bugs me. I don't like that situation. Now that I think about it, I don't like that person either. And I don't like those circumstances. You write down everything you can think of that's bugging you. Then you ask yourself the question, is this controllable? Do I have some impact? Do I have some influence? Can I get on a list of things to do today and get it done? We'll put a big old C in front of those things that are controllable. Now, if there's anything else left on that list, you've just declared those uncontrollable. That's the way it is. That's life. Those are the cards you're dealt. That's how they played out. Life's tough. Tough for everybody. Get over it. How'd you like to work with me every day? But sometimes we just have to ask ourselves, is this controllable or not? And sometimes we just have to accept it and move on. Next on that list is quality time. And whenever we think of quality time, we think that's for family and friends. But I want to change the definition of that a little bit. I've taught family communication for Metropolitan State for a couple of years for a colleague of mine that went on sabbatical. And in that textbook, Family Communication, Cohesiveness and Change, written by Dr. Kathleen Galvin, in her original research, she found that 41% of the stress we feel is caused by our family. These are people that love and care about us, cause us nearly half our stress. So my suggestion is, get away from them every once in a while. I get quality time 3 days a week. 3 days a week. My wife goes to CrossFit. I wait to see the taillights go around the corner. I go upstairs to the second floor bathroom. I don't let that dog in there. I don't let that cat in there. And I slip into a big old clawfoot tub full of piping hot peaches and cream bubble bath. And I'll lay in there for 20 minutes, pull the plug, fight the current, get some more exercise in, shower off, and away I go. That's my quality time. So you got to find some quality time for you where you can just idle down, alone, just idle down. Next, give yourself a nickname that you like. Not the nickname other people have given you. Give yourself a nickname that you like. Now, my nickname for me is Welchy. I don't know what it is. Whenever I call myself Welchy, I feel a little bit better. I never realized how powerful this was until the first time I worked with the Department of Corrections. Anybody here have family members that are correctional officers? The first time I worked with them, I thought they ate their young. I mean, pretty men and women alike. I mean, really masculine. And I was giving a presentation on change to 400 correctional officers, and they didn't want any, right? So I'm up at I'm at the Kelly Inn in St. Cloud. I'm going to the front of the room saying, come on, Welchy, let's go. Come on, Welchy, let's go. So the program stunk. Oh, that was Welchy's fault, not mine, okay? No, I'm not suggesting you should have a split personality, but man, you can manage a lot of stress if you do. So give yourself a nickname that you like. Next on there, contingency plans. Don't hang your heart on one solution to a problem. Always have a half a dozen ideas that you're willing to accept and that you have other options, and then you won't feel bad if you don't get your first choice. And there's more than one way to skin a cat. You remember them saying that? No, those weren't house cats. So those are civet cats and catfish. There's more than one way to solve a problem. So always have about a handful of other ideas that will work. Volunteer, nothing more stress relieving than that, to give away something that's a luxury for you that somebody else really needs. And then the last on that list is pray. I call that reverse delegation. Can't handle this one, you can have it back. What were you thinking? Don't send me such a big one next time. You know? But people that have a strong spiritual foundation do not suffer stress at the same intensity as other people that do not. They just have this hope or expectancy that things will turn out just fine. So those are some remedies to reduce stress, and I want to give you some time management techniques since that's nearly half the stress that we feel. So when it comes to time management, this is what I want us to think about. What are those tasks or activities in which we have total control? What are those tasks or activities in which we have total control? This isn't in your handout. This is value added. Otherwise, I could have mailed you the handout. Okay, what do you got? This is where we have the lively interaction between the speaker and the audience. What are those tasks or activities in which we have total control? How we think, I believe so. Or certainly how we respond. Yeah, so what we think and our responses, what else? Choices? Yeah, like what we eat. I've never accidentally eaten anything. And I'm sure you haven't either. But I know if I have a big old, maybe a big heavy meal at lunch, I'll be kind of sleepy in the afternoon. If I eat a little bit lighter lunch, I'm a little peppier in the afternoon. So what we eat. Anything else? Yeah, maybe what time we get up or what time we go to bed. If not almost total control, quite a bit of control. What else? Huh? Oh yeah, how you dress. Yeah, I think so. How we dress. Yeah, I like that. Who you hang out with, the people that you spend time with. And some we may not have any choice, but quite a few of those relationships we have total control. What are those tasks and activities in which we have some control? Everything else in our life. Take it back. Giving a lot of it away. Take it back. So one of the ways we do that is we have to get rid of some things that are a waste of time. Okay? Disorganization is a waste of time. So get organized. Next on that list is procrastination. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. Inability to say no. I've got to say no 3 times. 3 times. Even the best salespeople won't close 4 times. And then that lack of interest, you're going to have to build that in. Mine is Russell Stover French mints. I love those things. I deliver a presentation. I make 2 phone calls. I get my treat. I put them in the refrigerator because I think they taste better, cooler. I get one today. Next month I go to the fun-size Snickers. I freeze them because I think they stay fresher longer, but don't bite them right away because they're like the little bitty bricks and they'll break your dental work. And then I'm a cheap man, so the next month, my 3-month rotation are the Andes mints. They kind of taste like wax, but they still motivate me. Okay? So you got to figure out how you build interest into what you need to do. Also, burnout, we talked about that. That's not going to gossip. If other people are talking to you today about somebody else, they'll be talking to somebody else tomorrow about you. Yeah, stay out of that. And then unnecessary perfectionism. Some things need to be done perfectly. Everything else doesn't. And I apologize to the perfectionists in the room that just threw up in their mouths, but not everything needs to be. If I'm laying in the hospital bed and the doctor and the nurse are saying, is that 5 cc's or 50 cc's? I'm going to say, hey, would you double check that one? You know? But if my chicken's warm and I was hoping it was hot, I'm not going to get real wound up about that, right? And then what other people do to us? People stopping by, stand up, tends to cut the conversation in half. If you work in an office environment, people standing there, walk them back to their office. If they stay with you, go to the restroom. If they follow you in there, just keep going deeper. They'll peel off, but you got to have some strategies to minimize visitors stopping by. Telephone calls, what's the point question? How can I help you? I do have just 2 minutes. What is it that you need? It's amazing how the conversation will be just 2 minutes. And then when it comes to waiting for someone, bring something along you can read while you wait, so it's not a waste of time, it's constructive time. Unproductive meetings, 11 million meetings are held in the United States every single day. 11 million meetings. Some of you may not need to attend. Is it really a good use of your time or not? Christ sees other people's problems, get in the habit of saying, good luck with your problem. Coffee conversations, if you see someone coming towards you with a coffee cup, run for your lives, because they'll stand there until it's bone dry and stone cold. And then, of course, the last is unused or unnecessary reports. Just because technology can pump it out doesn't mean you necessarily have to read it all, but make sure you highlight or bold print what's most important that you need to read and other people too. So the first thing I'd like you to do is adopt the IGDS philosophy. It's had a profound positive effect on me personally and professionally, and I think it will for you too. And then take a few hours to plan the next 12 months. You know who's graduating this summer, who's getting married this summer. You know what kind of special events are coming up for people you know and love and care about. Make sure you get those in your calendar now. Plan your life annually, then monthly, then weekly, then daily. Otherwise, you'll sell out in your values on a daily basis. So you got to make sure you block in that time. Take a few hours to plan the next 12 months. I don't know if you had a grandma like my grandma, but she used to get a new calendar from the Mormon's feed man between Christmas and New Year's. She'd go into the farmhouse, sit at that chrome table, transfer the old dates to the new calendar. You could walk out to the end of the driveway on your birthday, and there'd be a birthday card from Grandma with $3 in it. Got her up to $5 by the time she passed away. But she never missed a day that was important to you, and that's the type of person we want to become too. And then once you've taken a few hours to plan the next 12 months, develop one time management system. I don't care if it has kitties and puppies on the back. I don't care if it's a Franklin planner. I don't care if it's a Google calendar. But make sure that you have a system, because you keep that time management system close, people will schedule around your calendar. And then, of course, put together a to-do list. You might say, my God, Kit, do you have an older time management technique than that? No, I don't. It comes out of one of my time management books with a 1948 copyright. But you think at 800 to 1,200 words per minute, so it feels like you have 800 to 1,200 things to do today. But if you get them on a list, you find you only have maybe 75 or 80 things to do today. But it calms the mind because you don't have to try to remember. Instead, you can just work the list and take action. Anybody have any questions on this slide before I move on? Really? Nobody has any questions on that? Well, thank you for asking. Yeah, what's the IGDS philosophy? Well, that stands for I'm going to die someday. I'm going to die someday. So do you want to be remembered as the person that was always late, never prepared, and always seemed to be frazzled, or would you rather be the person that shows up and is calm and collected and well prepared? That's that kind of a choice. Just like turning the steering wheel in a car. It's just that kind of a choice. Next on that list, do first things first, second things not at all. And determine what's urgent and important. You're going to have 2 different ways to do that here in just a second. And delegate responsibilities whether you have the authority or not. I'm amazed what I can get my neighbor's kids to do for me. It's a lot of popping a lot of candy bars, but they're good at digging holes, okay? And then prioritize 2 tasks at a time. The one that's most urgent, the one that's most important, get those 2 done. Say, good job, Welchie. Of course, you'd call yourself something else. Then pick out 2 more. And then know your biological time clock. Are you a morning person, an afternoon person, or an evening person? And plan your most important tasks when you're at your best. Next on that list is schedule thinking time. 15 minutes a day to stop and think. An hour a week to stop and think. What happened last week? What's happening next week? A half a day a month. What happened last month? What's coming up? And a day a year just to reflect and forecast what's going to happen over the next 12 months. And learn to say no 3 times and deal with mail only once. It's your ability to make decisions that gives you the ability to control your time. I deal with email 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes right after lunch, 5 minutes at the end of the day. That's it. Often I respond to my clients in the subject bar. And the first time I work with a client, they'll say, there wasn't anything in your email. I come back in the subject bar. It's in the subject bar. Then it comes back in the subject bar. Got it. Okay, we're done with that now. I don't get paid to write emails. Okay, and if you're not going to hire me because I respond in the subject bar, don't hire me, because I wouldn't be a good fit. I mean, that's how you got to get crystal clear on what's important to you and how you value your time. I could write some great emails. I don't get paid for that, so I'm not going to do it. Okay, next. If you have some old email or mail laying around, you got to break it up into 3 piles. Action pile, make a decision, make a phone call, send an email. B pile, better read, drag it along, read it when you're waiting for someone or bored to death somewhere. And the C pile, you can throw it, you can delete it. Somebody else probably has a copy anyway. And determine when good is good enough. The way we do that is we negotiate these 3 Qs: quickness, quantity, and quality. If it move up the deadline, quantity and quality is going to have to be adjusted. You want more? Well, the quality might, or the time is going to have to be adjusted. You negotiate those 3 Qs, and that's how perfectionists can get through the day. It's good enough today. And analyze their errands before you jump up and head across town. See if there's a few things you can do along the way instead of making separate trips. And do 2 things at the same time, sometimes for about 45 minutes or so. Then multitasking seems to lose its effectiveness. And minimize telephone and television, especially at work, real-time bandit. And then throughout the day, always ask yourself the question, what's the best use of my time right now? What's the best use of my time right now? So we're talking about priorities. So I've given you 2 different formulas to follow for priorities. There's 4 key elements to priorities. Intrinsically important, that's why we're in the business we're in. And then if there's a deadline attached to it, we better be sure that we are aware of that so we don't get a fine, we don't let somebody down. And then can I delegate this to somebody else, or am I stuck with it? And then how much time is going to be involved in the communication? Is it going to be 2 hours every Monday morning? That's quite a bit of time. We better block that in right now. So on the next page of your handout, you have a worksheet that you can list all the things you need to do. Take it across from left to right. Score it. 4, it's very important. 4, there's a deadline attached to it. 4, I'm stuck with it. 4, a lot of communication involved. Anything less than a 12, you can probably delegate to somebody else. Anything more than 12, it's probably something you need to do. Next page, you've seen this 1,000 times. That urgent and important thing, with first things first. You'll see one, I gave one to you that's all filled out there. Urgent and important, deadline-driven projects, important meetings that you must attend and be prepared for. But you see what else I gave you? I gave a blank one. So the next time you're thinking about something that you would like to do or need to do, make sure you just stop for a second and figure out which box you're putting it in. And really hold yourself from taking a concept into a strategy, and make sure it's either in quadrant 1 or quadrant 2. Quadrant 3, quadrant 4, wasted time. Quadrant 2, I don't know, you spend a little time in there, you probably won't have as many crises and pressing problems in quadrant 1. I love that. You put it in those boxes, then you'll be sure you're doing something important and valuable. Okay, one of my favorite books is Getting Things Done by David Allen. So I've given you the model. You have all this stuff that comes to you. You have to decide, what is it? Is it something that I can just, someday maybe I'll learn Spanish? Is it something that's reference material I'll maybe read later? And then other things that are projects, you're going to make sure that you put them in the right files. If it's going to take 2 minutes or less, you do it right away. If it's going to be longer than that, it's hard schedule. Defer it to another day and time that you know you'll finish it. And see if you can delegate it to somebody else. Then just keep track of it. I love this thing. It's like a corn sheller. You have all this stuff coming to you. The grain's going out this way, the cob's going out that way, the soups are going out the back. I love that. Just take it on, like going into a battle with a coat of arms and a sword. Boom, knocking it over there, slicing it off over here, and just finishing it. Just don't stop moving forward. Okay, enough on that. Charlie, last video. Let's see what we learned from this thing. Oop, moved it on you, sorry.
Hi, this is Kit Welchlin, and welcome to Welchlin.com. Today's video blog is on procrastination. The question is, why do I procrastinate? I'm a pretty brave person. I usually have the courage to act, but sometimes I get stuck and I kind of freeze. I don't get chilly, I just sit. I wore my favorite t-shirt today, top 10 reasons I procrastinate, but I didn't even start that. Why do I procrastinate? Well, usually it is fear that stops us from taking action. There are many fears that can immobilize you and cause you to procrastinate. I will share with you 16 reasons why people procrastinate. Fear of imperfection. Some things need to be done perfectly, everything else doesn't. Fear of not being ready, concern that you may not have all the information you need to move forward. Sometimes it's the fear of the unknown. You find yourself asking, what will people think? Fear of being overwhelmed. The task is so complex you don't know where or how to start. Fear of making mistakes. Mistakes are part of life. Ask, what can I learn from this? Fear of pain and dread. When you postpone an unpleasant task, attempting to make life easier and avoiding the distasteful. Fear of success, concern that you must continue to succeed more and more. It could be fear of bad timing, battling your natural biological rhythms and energy cycles. It could be the fear of having to live up to a high standard, hoping others won't expect such high quality work from you in the future. Fear of no pressure. Some people believe that they need pressure to focus and to finish. It could be the fear of change, worrying that the change will render you incompetent or irrelevant. It could be the fear of difficulty. The task seems so difficult that you won't even start. It could be the fear of too much responsibility. Once a person starts something, the concern becomes, will they be able to consistently continue the work? And it could be the fear of finishing, concern that if you finish this task, there will be another awful job to do. And it could be the fear of being rejected. It's hard not to take it personally when there is proof that you are flawed in some ways. It could be the fear of making the wrong decision, so we get busy with trivial activities to avoid making a decision. I do like the trivial activities. There's no risk. I think my fears are probably the fears of success and having to live up to a high standard. I wish my parents would have raised me up as a lazy slacker.
Last page. 5 ways we break procrastination. Number 1 is make sure you make a commitment, handwrite a contract. Make a commitment. Anybody here used to smoke, no longer smokes? That's the kind of commitment you need to make when it comes to procrastination. You got to get honest with yourself about what it's costing you. Ever wonder why your friends don't call anymore? Because you never used to show up. Remember when saying to the kids, let's go to Valley Fair. Yeah, we'll do that someday. And their little faces slide off their skulls because they know there's a Saturday. They know there's a Sunday. They also know there's no someday on a calendar. So get honest with yourself. What does this cost you personally and professionally? And then make sure you set empowering goals, goals in which you reward yourself daily. I do the Andes mints and the bite-sized Snickers and the Russell Stover French mints. They're in my refrigerator up by the pool shed right now. I mean, that is my motivating factor. Show up. Okay, this is my model for 26 years. I deliver a seminar, I make 2 phone calls. That's a baseline. I got to do that every day. And because I always call back and I always show up, I'm pretty well booked through next spring. Why? Because I make the 2 phone calls and I show up. That's it. That's how simple it is. No, I got enough on that. Okay, then. Flexible time management. If you're a procrastinator, the last thing you want to do is schedule 15 minutes every hour on the hour, just drive you crazy. But the reward of managing procrastination is you have a block of free time. Maybe an hour on a Wednesday afternoon, you're not responsible to anybody for anything. Go sit in the car, go out to the park, just sit there. But you've earned it. Guilt-free time. And then the last is a 5-minute rule. As soon as you catch yourself procrastinating, drag it back, focus for 5 minutes. Hard schedule when you're going to finish it. Creates incubation time and you break procrastination. If you have any questions, anytime, anything in that handout, I don't care if it's 2 days, 2 months, 2 years from now, my phone number, email, I got enough baby boomer in me. You call me, I'll answer the phone. I'll even call you back. It's the least I can do if you've been trapped in this room with me for an hour. Good luck to you and have a great day today and tomorrow. Thank you, Angie. It's yours. Thanks.